Welcome to the 3 over 2. I'm Joe Fortunato, and as always, I'm joined here with Chris Grieve. What's going on, Chris? How's your past week?
It's been pretty good, and I'm so excited for this show because it's finally trade deadline season, and I think as a basketball fan, that's probably the most exciting part of the whole season.
Yeah, it's crazy that that's the most exciting part, but it is. Just seeing things get shaken up and the league move big players. I mean, it's very entertaining to see new people in new uniforms, new cities, new environments, and see if they could thrive or whether they fold.
And a lot of the fun part also is trying to predict where people go and trying to
hmm
getting your hopes up that one player might come to your team, and that's all the fun of it. And actually, there was a trade today, about 30 minutes before the show started. We had the first trade of the year, so I'll go ahead and say that one. It was the Clippers are trading Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a future second to the Trailblazers for Norman Powell and Robert Covington. So, Joe, what are your initial thoughts on this?
So originally, I thought it was kind of just like one of those trades where it's like both teams don't really benefit. Both teams just kind of give up something for an equal asset. So I didn't think much of it at first. That was until I saw a tweet by King of the Fourth Quarter who mentioned that just a couple of years ago, the Blazers gave up 2 first-round picks for Robert Covington, and they also traded Gary Trent, who's having a career year this year in Toronto, and a big part of their team for Norman Powell, who was in Toronto, and they just flipped both of those guys for basically a second rounder, and that's just disappointing. I mean, Dame's been so patient there. I want to see Dame have some success there, but the team's not doing anything for him. So that's my original thoughts. I think it's about time for Portland to blow it up, and I think that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's the first step right there, and then blowing this up. I think probably after this, next is Nurkic on the move,
hmm
CJ McCollum, or Dame. I think at least
Or all three.
probably all three if they
Yeah.
can find
At least,
someone.
I think at least the two. I can't imagine CJ McCollum making it past this deadline without getting traded. I mean, that talk about McCollum being traded has been a topic for about 2 years now. So,
Now's the time to do it too. With Dame out, the team
mhm.
underperforming, you just traded away two of your better role players, veteran role players. Go out there and trade CJ now and just kind of embrace the tank at this point.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we had an episode where we were talking about teams that need to blow it up, and Portland was one of those teams we talked about. We didn't highlight them as much as the Pacers and the Kings, but who I still believe should blow it up, both of those teams. But anyway, the Portland Trailblazers was brought up, and now we're kind of seeing it go into motion, and this is kind of what we predicted, is they were going to get rid of the role players and then eventually find a home for Dame. Um, it's just a matter of the return that you can get on Dame. Dame's got a max contract, so you got to trade him for another guy who's got a lot of money in his pockets, and you want some first-round picks for sure.
Yeah, and I think eventually someone will be able to offer that. Hopefully it comes to the Sixers. There's a Ben Simmons deal that's been the dream scenario for almost a year now, is that the Trailblazers finally blow it up. They put Dame on the market and then we flip them Ben Simmons. It's starting to make more sense now. I have no clue if they will still want to do it, and I'm sure they could probably get a lot out of us, way more than just Ben Simmons. So it is
Yeah.
possible that something like that happens.
Yeah, and speaking of the Sixers, they're a game right out of first place, which is crazy. It's crazy to think. Like, if you would have told me we would be without Ben Simmons and a game out of first place at this point in the season, I would have thought it was crazy. But here we are. I mean, you got Maxey stepping up, you got those guys stepping up. So adding Dame to that equation would just put the Sixers over the top.
Oh, that would. And I think the East is so close right now. A Damian Lillard to Philly could make them the top team in the East easily. Another thing in this trade, I wanted to talk about the Clippers side of it.
hmm
Um, One thing that I don't really get for them, Kawhi Leonard's out the whole year, and you're going out there and bringing in big contracts in Robert Covington and Norman Powell. Norman Powell's under contract until 2026. Not a good
And
contract.
he's making good money,
He's
too.
making good money. I don't really know why they're trying to bring in Norman Powell. I would be aiming a little bit higher than a guy like Norman Powell. I get why the Trailblazers did that. They're just trying to tank. They dump him off to the Clippers, and now he's the Clippers' problem. But I don't really understand why they felt the need to bring him in because they're not going to compete this year. I'm kind of thinking the Clippers window's closing unless their strategy is to go for it the next couple years.
Yeah, and Robert Covington was definitely just thrown into that deal because Robert Covington, back when he was with us, signed a 4-year, $46 million deal.
That's actually a decent contract.
And I believe he was underpaid for when he was playing at the time 4 years ago, but he's going to be an unrestricted free agent here in 2022.
Okay.
I don't really understand this trade too much from either perspective, but Robert Covington's one of those guys who can come in and make a good impact. I think the Clippers are going to try and make a playoff run even without their 2 stars, which I mean, they'll just get bounced first round, but at the end of the day, Robert Covington's a good pickup. It's just he's going to be a free agent this offseason.
Yeah, so I don't really get that, and that's making me think. I'm trying to pick the winner and loser of this trade, and I feel like I got to go Trailblazers. They get Norman Powell off the books. They get rid of that contract, although they get pretty much nothing in return in this deal. That, like, I don't think Winslow or Bledsoe were that intriguing pieces there at all. They're probably going to be gone in a year or two, but this is just their step in the direction to rebuild, and I think getting those contracts off is a positive for them, even though they gave up a lot to get them back in the day.
Yeah. And Robert Covington's a guy averaging 7 points, nothing spectacular on the offensive end, but he's averaging 1.5 steals and 1.3 blocks a game. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. I'm looking at his recent games real quick. And last game in the Portland Trailblazers jersey, he had 0 points on 0 for 8 shooting, 0 for 6 from downtown. But he had 13 rebounds, 9 assists, 4 steals, and 1 block.
That's a very weird game.
That's a weird game, but that's kind of like what Robert Covington does. He's either red hot or he's just off. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So who do you think won this trade?
I don't know if there is a winner, and I kind of explained that, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's hard to say the Portland Trailblazers won, but I'm going to say they did because, hear me out. I mean, the trade history between Gary Trent, Norman Powell, and what they traded for Rocco is terrible. But I think that the fact that they're going to let Anthony Simons step up.
That's a great point.
They're going to get rid of that Norman Powell contract. I really think that they're taking the right steps to the rebuild, but I think their history for trading for those guys was just atrocious. But so I'll say Portland won, but it's not by much at all.
Yeah, it's kind of a consolation prize for the Trailblazers, getting something in return in this deal.
Oh, I just saw this. Robert Covington was supposed to get 4 years, $62 million from Philly, and he got $46 million. So that's just a random thing. But they said he was finalizing the deal, and it never went through.
Oh wow, didn't realize that.
He took a pay cut, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's what people do to try and play in Philly.
Yeah.
So all this, we wanted to bring up the first trade of the year at first, and then that was going to kind of transition us into our predictions for this trade deadline. There's a lot of players this year that look like they either won out, their teams have expressed that they're trying to shop them, or just any of those things. So we made a list of about 10 players that look like they're going to get traded this trade deadline, and there's some pretty good star players on this list. So we're just kind of going to go through them and say what teams we want to see them on and where we think they should go. So first player I was going to bring up is John Collins. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And it looks like the Hawks want to trade him because there's been a battle. They're not sure if they want to re-sign him and all. And what do you think they do with John Collins? And what do you think's a good fit for him?
I don't know. I really like John Collins, and I think he could be a great role player on any team. I really do. But I don't see a better fit than where he is right now in Atlanta. And I think if you're the Atlanta Hawks, you have to make it work to keep Collins and Trae Young together. Because now those two might not be the championship equation for them, but at the end of the day, the chemistry between Young and Collins is great. We saw that in the 76ers series where they took Philly to 7 and beat them in 7. John Collins was dominant, and he was hitting outside shots. He was performing in his first ever playoff run very well alongside Trae Young. I really do think that they have to do what they can to keep him. If they were going to move him, I mean, teams like Boston would utilize John Collins very well. It's just a matter of the return, though. Like, what can Boston give the Hawks? And then you got, like, the Miami Heat could use him, but what do the Heat give?
Would be a good fit. That's what I said, where I want him to go. And my apologies. He actually isn't a free agent. He signed the 5-year deal. I keep thinking he's a free agent.
He signed it this year?
Yeah, he signed one already. I just looked it up to double check.
Him.
Yeah.
Then you keep him.
Everything I'm seeing, he's like in the center of every trade rumor this year.
I've seen that too.
And that's what made me think. I was thinking, like, he must be a free agent at the end of the year. No, they signed him to a 5-year deal, like about $25 million a year. I was just double checking it, and yeah, he's on a big contract right now, $25 million a year for 5 years. And I guess they're not happy with him, and they want to get a bigger player and an upgrade. It's possible that they go out there and try and go for a star and just kind of throw him in, throw John Collins and a bunch of picks for a superstar player that wants out, like a Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. But I don't really see that happening because it's just John Collins. I don't think he carries that much value alone, but I like the Heat. That's what I said was a good fit for him if they can get the money to work out.
Well, I'm getting a text right now saying that the Heat wouldn't work with John Collins.
How come?
I don't know the logic behind it. I'm just
unless it just means the money.
I guess it just means the money. I don't know what would happen I don't know. If he's on a near max contract, what, like, I don't understand.
Tobias Harris swap.
Oh, I'm down. Yeah, swap. I'm down with that, but nah, that won't happen. I don't know what teams have the money to utilize him right now. I really just think his best fit's in Atlanta.
I think it will end up being he just stays in Atlanta, and I don't know why. Every single Hawks fan and pretty much you just look up NBA trade rumors. It's all John Collins stuff. He's one of the biggest names, and I don't know why everyone's pushing for him to get traded. It's not like he's playing bad. They gave him a big deal. They had to give him a big deal in order to keep him, and there's really nothing they can do about it. Also, I thought of another one. Maybe they could do like a Porzingis swap with the Mavericks, but I don't think either team is super hype about that.
And Porzingis is playing well there.
Yeah.
He's actually, like, I don't want to say underrated because I think he's properly rated, but he's having a good year.
Yeah. Next player we got up, Domantas Sabonis. Where do you want to see Sabonis traded?
I really like this because I think Sabonis is one of those guys that can be traded anywhere and do fine anywhere. Like,
sure. Like,
whether his stats drop or what, I think he has a positive impact on any team that he gets traded to. As far as, like, realistic destinations, I would like to see him in Toronto. I think him paired with Pascal Siakam, your boy, in Toronto would be a nice fit. It's just, I don't know what Toronto has to give up. I mean, you could get rid of some guys that, like a vet, like Goran Dragic, he's still there somehow. And, I don't know, a young guy like Chris Boucher. And you could possibly get Sabonis. You got to add in a first-round pick or two, but that's just a immediate off the top of my head kind of trade. So I have no clue financials if it would work or anything like that. But what do you think? Where do you think Sabonis would thrive?
I said the Warriors would be an interesting one.
That would be really interesting.
I think they would have to give up a Wiseman in the deal, but if you're the Warriors, it looks like your window, at least with Curry, Steph, and Draymond, you have a good window right now. I'd try and get him to the Warriors. I think the Warriors have a lot they can give in return. You can give back James Wiseman, a couple picks or something, and then I'm pretty sure they have
Kuminga.
Yeah, maybe a Kuminga. That might be a lot to give all of that in one deal, but
yeah, you got to give them some time. But
then I'm trying to think. There's probably a couple players you could also give up in the deal to make it financially work. So I think he'd end up going there. He'd start at center. It'd be a little bit of a small center, but he's not a small center.
No, he plays way bigger than his body.
Oh yeah, with how he gets the rebounds, he's a smart player. He'd work in the pick and roll in that offense and can shoot the mid-range and can even shoot a little bit three. So I think Sabonis would be a great fit in the Warriors offense. And that's like a fun destination for him where he's going to be an impactful player, which we've never seen Sabonis be on a championship level team.
Yeah. No, that's exciting. And that's an interesting fit. So next, we have a very sensitive topic here that's been almost every show now. We got Ben Simmons. The reason why we're talking about him again, this is the last episode we'll have before the trade deadline, so that's why we're kind of going over everything. I wish this episode was like a day before the trade deadline because that would be great, but the exciting part is our next episode is going to be the day after the trade deadline, so
we'll be able to recap everything.
Exactly. Ben Simmons, though, so Philadelphia 76ers been sitting out the whole year. Where does Ben go? I mean, we just talked about Damian Lillard for Ben. That'd be a dream come true, but the realism of that, I don't know if it's really happening. Well, the Kings, De'Aaron Fox, or Tyrese Halliburton is an ongoing topic. Where do you think Ben's going to go?
Where I think he goes is stays here throughout the trade deadline, and we keep him the rest of the year.
Okay.
That's where I think he goes.
I can see it.
Where I want him to go is I want him to go to the Wizards in a Bradley Beal deal, but I have no clue if the Wizards are even interested in doing that, and I don't know. That's just where I want to see him go, because actually Ben Simmons wouldn't be an awful fit there if they traded Bradley Beal and then they commit to a rebuild. He's a good player to build your team around, and they have pieces that fit good alongside him right now. Will they want to do it? I have no clue. They're not going to be a championship team, the Wizards. They'll be a playoff team, so maybe they want to go out and get Ben Simmons, but that's where I want to see him go, is the Wizards, because then that means we get Bradley Beal.
I don't want Beal. I really don't want Bradley Beal. I don't know if you've seen how he's been playing this year. It's a very down year for Brad Beal. His shooting splits are pretty bad. I just don't know if he would fit in our team very well. Well, what's your reason for Beal?
Well, right now Ben Simmons isn't playing, and
yeah,
I'll take a guy that can score 30 points over 0 points right now, so I'm taking Beal all day.
Well, I get that logic, but at the end of the day, you want like longevity out of this Ben trade. So I don't know. I really want Tyrese Halliburton. That's like my number one realistic trade.
Yeah, Halliburton's a solid player, but like, I don't even care as much about longevity, because who knows how much longevity Joel Embiid has. He's true. An MVP candidate right now. Try and get the best player possible to go with him right now. And if
that's a good point.
Somehow Bradley Beal's available and they're willing to, even if we have to give up more in the deal, if we have to give up a Matisse, I don't know about a Maxey, but if we have to give up Matisse, multiple first-round picks, like a Jaden Springer, one of our guys in the G League, first-round picks, I would do it. I'd do anything we can to get Bradley Beal, because Embiid's playing at an MVP level right now, and I don't want to waste it. I don't want to have Ben Simmons sit out the year, and we don't have anything for one of our most valuable assets. It's just nothing. I don't want that to happen. But unfortunately, my gut's telling me we just hold on to Ben Simmons. Beal never becomes available. Like, nobody big becomes available, and we just hold on to him.
Yeah, and I can see that happening for sure. I got a text in my friend from home mentioning that a low seed playoff team needs to get one of these guys that we're talking about. Like, as far as like the Cavs, Raptors, Hawks, Jazz, Mavs, Nuggets, and Wolves, like they need a game changer.
For sure.
And it's definitely kind of the direction we're going with some of these big name trades. We want to see them go to people that can shake up the league and really make playoff time very interesting. Next on the list, did we talk about Julius Randle?
No, we skipped over Randle.
Oh, okay. So I got a little too excited about Ben Simmons, so I need to.
But let's go back.
Just give me a little 1 minute window here to just rip in the Julius Randle.
I'll start off. I'll go Julius Randle, and right now Julius Randle's saying he's trying to request a trade from the Knicks. He's playing awful basketball this year. I was trying to think of teams where he'd be a good fit and just wouldn't ruin things, and it's hard to find any. So,
I literally laughed when I saw that Julius Randle requested a trade. Like, I literally laughed. Like, how do you... This is kind of my thought process. You had your career most improved player year with the New York Knicks. Nothing changes in that team in the matter of a 1-year span, and now you want out because you're playing bad? Like, the team hasn't changed from that playoff run last year, and you won most improved player last year. Tom Thibodeau gave you the window to win the most improved player, to become Julius Randle, and you're just going to leave a year later because you suck? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it makes no sense. He's one of the least efficient players in the NBA. I think he might even be number one. For a while, he was ranked number one as the least efficient player in the NBA.
Yes, and it fluctuates from him and...
Was it Jaylen Green?
Jaylen Green, yeah, Jaylen Green.
Yeah, those two going back and forth at it. And no, he's not playing good basketball. He turns over the ball so much.
Mhm.
It's like he plays ISO, but it looks like a center trying to play ISO, and he does his spin moves and turns it over every time, or
We just talked
shoots
about
a bad shot.
Yeah, we just talked about how he can't go right.
He can't.
And yeah, I don't
feel
know.
like I don't know if this is a stat. I want to figure this out. What player in the league gets blocked the most? Because I'm almost positive it's Julius Randle. I feel like every time I watch him play, he drives and gets swatted every single time he tries to drive.
Yeah, I'm sure he's out there for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's a stat somewhere. Someone's got to be booking that.
Yeah, most blocked player in the NBA, because I feel like Randle at the very least is in the top 10 in that. It seems like he gets stuffed so much, and then he'll get his own rebound and get stuffed again.
Because teams are predicting him. They saw him break out last year, and that happens a lot with most improved players. Like Isaiah Thomas had that MVP year, and then the very next year, teams figured him out. Like, that happens because when you win most improved player, you become on teams' radars, you get marked on their calendars, you get studied, and it seems like that's what's happening to Julius Randle. The trade request is just laughable, but yeah, I don't really know where he's going. I guess that's something we could talk about in our next episode, whether he's in New York or not.
Well, do you have any places that you think might try and pick him up? I said
the Kings, sure. The Rockets, sure.
If the Knicks can somehow get De'Aaron Fox for Julius Randle and
I saw that.
Give up a lot, that's a W for the Knicks. I'll take that.
Yeah, I think you got to get rid of Julius Randle and someone else, but
yeah, and then picks.
Cam Reddish, MVP Cam Reddish.
I don't even get me started on that. People think Cam Reddish is going to break out.
You're talking about free Cam Reddish already.
Yeah, no, he's just not good. Like, just because he was a top player in high school and in college and had all this hype doesn't mean he's going to break out. Just because he hasn't been getting the playing time, he's probably not getting playing time for a reason. He's not that good. And yes, he's still young. He can maybe turn into a role player, but I feel like every single year people are picking him as their breakout player, most improved player.
Every single year.
And he just doesn't get the minutes. And I don't think it's because the coaching staffs hate him. It's probably because he's not good enough.
Well, while we're on the topic of the Kings, De'Aaron Fox, we'll shoot to that real quick.
Yeah. De'Aaron
Fox having a disappointing year. Tyrese Halliburton seems like the man on that team that they want to go with moving forward. I know I just said I want him in a Philly uniform, but De'Aaron Fox, I think, can make a great impact on a lot of teams. I kind of could see the Clippers going after him, and I think he'd be a great fit with Paul George and Kawhi, because De'Aaron Fox is excellent at finding his shooters, like Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield. Like, he's been excellent at that. And I think you surround him with Paul George, Luke Kennard, Kawhi Leonard, those guys. I mean, I think the Clippers would be the best fit for De'Aaron Fox. It's just a matter of, I don't know what they could give up for him.
Yeah, that's not a bad option right there. I said, for my Fox landing spot, I said the Knicks.
Yeah.
And that was kind of off the basis that maybe they'll trade Julius Randle, and I thought that trade benefits the Knicks, and that would be a good fit for De'Aaron Fox, but trying to think realistically, because I don't really think the Knicks have the assets to get De'Aaron Fox, or would the Kings really want a Julius Randle at this moment. But yeah, the Clippers is a good one. If they can make the trade financially work out and get De'Aaron Fox there, the Clippers might be planning out something with their trade they did today. They might be planning, it might not be this year, but maybe they're planning out next year being like putting it all together and building a super team. So,
well, that's also the fun. Yeah, that's also one of the fun parts about the trade deadline is some of these moves, like a second round pick. That second round pick could turn into Nikola Jokic. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, definitely.
it's kind of cool looking back at the trade deadlines of the past and how teams have used other teams' picks to pick a superstar and that kind of thing. So that's interesting. Who's next? Who else we got on this?
So I have Jeremy Grant.
Okay. That's a name that's been talked about getting moved for months now. Detroit. Where do you have Jeremy going?
So I said I have 2 teams for him. I have the Kings and Wizards, and it's on one condition. He goes to the Kings if they don't trade Fox. They don't trade they maybe trade like Bagley and some of the lower guys.
Yeah.
But if they want to keep Fox, you get Jeremy Grant, get someone that can help elevate them to a playoff level team, get Fox some help. Jeremy Grant's a good fit. Or the Wizards, put him on the Wizards, and Jeremy Grant, if they don't trade Bradley Beal, can be another piece there. They could play him at the 3, I think. That would end up working, either him or Kuzma at the 3. And
yeah, it's not bad.
I think he'd be a good fit there because they could use another scorer on that team. Maybe do a Jeremy Grant giveaway like Spencer Dinwiddie and get a pick back. Something like that would work out.
That wouldn't be bad at all. I had him going to Boston. I think him being at the 4 in Boston would be big for them because Jeremy Grant's a pretty solid rebounder, and that's something that team struggles in. You know, they start a 6'8" center. They're undersized already. So I think the small ball lineup that they run would make Jeremy Grant have a great impact there.
Yeah, that's also a good fit. Who we have next? Well, next I have Spencer Dinwiddie up. So I just mentioned Spencer Dinwiddie, but do you have any places you'd like to see Dinwiddie go?
I don't really know where he would fit as like a starting point guard.
I had another one I'd bring up.
Go ahead.
Sixers. Just to add another scorer to our team, he can play the 2. I don't think he has to play point guard.
Yeah.
If they're giving him away for nothing, which it seems like they might give him away for nothing.
I don't know if we could afford him. Dinwiddie has a pretty big contract.
Is his contract that bad?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We'll have to look that up. But yeah, I think Dinwiddie would fit on the Sixers if they're giving him away for nothing, which I'm sure they're going to try to give him away for nothing.
18 mil a year, locked up for 3 more years, $54 million contract.
I wouldn't do it. I mean, maybe like Danny Green.
Danny Green has a pretty bad contract.
Yeah, if you could work out Danny Green in like 2 seconds, they might do it because it really seems like Dinwiddie's value is low right now, and they're just trying to get something for him. He doesn't fit with them.
Danny Green's got a $10 million contract.
So then we give up maybe one other player.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like Dinwiddie. I think he'd be great off our bench, but it's just a matter of if he would want to be off the bench.
Yeah, definitely. I also thought Dinwiddie maybe to like the Mavericks or something, and a team that could use another scorer shooter. It's just not a good fit with the Wizards, and I know his value is going to be low, so a team's going to pick him up for what seems to be nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. The Kings seem to be one of the top destinations we've talked about. So going over to Kings, I kind of want to lump these 2 guys together because I can imagine they'd be a part of the same trade package. Would be Marvin Bagley and Buddy Hield.
Yeah.
Those 2 guys, honestly, might be 2 of the most important role players that are coming into this trade deadline. I think whatever team gets them, depending on the deal, obviously, but I think whatever team gets them wins. I mean, like, if a contender brings in Bagley and Hield, I mean, that could just make them, like, the depth go so, like, their bench would just be so good, no matter who gets them. I can imagine, like, Utah getting them. Utah's seen some injuries with Joe Ingles going down, so I'm sure they want a guy like Buddy Hield. Yeah. Jordan Clarkson kind of underperforming. So I think putting those 2 on the Jazz would be a great move for Utah.
I had one in mind. I thought maybe the Grizzlies. This could be something that they could buy. Buddy Hield on the Grizzlies.
Grizzlies bench.
Yeah, that would just give them even more depth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Buddy Hield would start there, and I don't know if they want to do that just for a bench piece. But adding another shooter to that team, a team that's trying to contend, that'd be a fun one. I also thought maybe the Cavs do it. Some of these teams that have a little bit of money, they're like a first-time playoff team, and it's not a super risky trade where they're going all in, getting a superstar.
Yeah,
and they can get for cheap.
The Cavs' small forward shooting guard position is their weakest spot. So
Yeah.
adding Buddy Hield would be awesome. And
Yeah, I kind of like the Cavs better than the Grizzlies.
yeah,
You're
I
saying
like Utah and the Cavs for sure. I think
those are
those
good
are
spots.
yeah, really good spots. And the only reason why I said Utah was only because of Joe Ingles going down.
Yeah, they're
If
going to need to make a move.
yeah, if he was still up, I'd say that the Cavs would be the better fit. We skipped over Bradley Beal.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Where I don't really know where Brad Beal would have to be part of a big trade because of his contract.
Definitely.
So I really don't know what team would take him and thrive with him immediately. Part of me says the Miami Heat would be awesome with Brad Beal. They would have to give up a guy like Tyler Hero though, which they're probably unwilling
And it's
to
like
do.
maybe Kyle Lowry or something to make the contracts work.
Yeah. I think the Heat would be a good destination. I think Philly would be a pretty good destination, even though that's not the trade I want. I mean, Brad Beal's Brad Beal would be an awesome guy to bring in.
Yeah.
I think those are the two main teams.
I had a couple that I was thinking. I said Mavericks for him.
Oh,
Mavericks need a number 2 star. Although we were talking about how Porzingis is playing good, it feels like in every situation they probably have to give up Porzingis just to make things work out.
or Brunson.
Give up Brunson in the deal.
And Brunson, someone else, and a couple picks. I mean, they're trying to move Brunson,
maybe.
so I'm sure that's a trade they'll approach with. But yeah, that's not a bad fit at all. I'd actually like seeing Bradley Beal with Luka.
I want to see Luka with someone.
Yeah, someone
And
fun.
That's the hope, is hopefully they get someone. And then, yeah, that was pretty much all I had for Bradley Beal. I thought I had another team with him also. That's all I got. So, and you said the Sixers, which I also had. Next player I had, we have 2 more. Karis LeVert.
Okay, I like that. That's instant offense. Karis LeVert. Philly. Philly.
I like Philly Karis.
I'm just gonna keep saying Philly because obviously we're both Sixers fans, but realistically, I mean, he would be a great fit in Philly. But I mean, outside of Philadelphia, I think if he goes to a contender, he goes to a team like Utah, he goes to a team like Cleveland.
I was going to say Cleveland as mine. They need a 3.
Yeah, I mean, Karis LeVert's instant offense. I think you could get him for a reasonable price, and I mean, yeah, he could be a great contributor on pretty much any team in the league.
Unless he gets packaged with Sabonis, which
Yeah.
it's possible he does. But yeah, no, he would be a great fit pretty much anywhere he goes. I like the rotations. Imagine the Sixers get him and they do a rotation of him and Matisse Thybulle at the 3. That would be so fun to watch.
That
or
would be.
say the Cavs do it and they do a rotation with Isaac Okoro and Karis LeVert. That would also be a very fun thing to watch. So I think that a Karis LeVert trade makes sense for pretty much any team. That's a safe player to get. Last player we have up, CJ McCollum. Looks like the Trailblazers, as we talked about earlier in the show, are blowing things up. They're starting to maybe trade everyone, and CJ McCollum's a big name that could get traded. But he's got a big contract, and who knows with him, but where do you want to see him?
Well, before the show, we talked about CJ to the Mavs, kind of like Bradley Beal to the Mavs, same kind of thing. They need another scorer to pair with Luka. I think the Mavs is the best destination for him. I would love, again, to bring up Philadelphia. I would love to see him in Philly. I don't think we have anything to offer them, realistically, for
No,
CJ.
we'd be Tobias.
Yeah, I mean, we have Ben, but we're not trading Ben for
no.
CJ McCollum. That just can't happen. Unless there was a lot of first-round picks involved or something like that, obviously. But, yeah, I think the Mavs would be the best fit for CJ. I also think another team, Cleveland Cavaliers, could use a CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
I can't really think where else. I mean, maybe even the Clippers could use CJ. It's just, I don't know. He's one of those guys where it's just like his contract's so big that I don't know how he's going to get moved without a big thing shaken up.
One team that I thought of that has the cap space to do it, and it's really random. You look up CJ McCollum, and he's pretty much only linked to this team right now. It's the New Orleans Pelicans.
Oh, right. Yeah, I did see something about
They're
that.
terrible, but apparently they want CJ McCollum. They want to get him real bad. It'd be interesting. Like, once Zion comes back, that could be a fun team that takes a huge leap next year if they have CJ McCollum. So they maybe go out when they can and get him now during the trade deadline. And then who knows? Like he'll play this year. They'll still be a bad team, but then next year he'll come back with Zion, and they could end up being a decent team. That's not an awful fit.
Yeah, and I think you could get CJ for not a bad asking price. Like I think you could get rid of like Nikhil Alexander-Walker and maybe like 2 first-round picks and bring in CJ McCollum.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I mean, yeah, CJ, Brandon Ingram, and Zion together could be a very interesting team.
That could be a team that just out of nowhere takes a leap next year too if they do that.
Yeah, and they bring in a nice point guard. You know, yeah, that is exciting. But yeah, while we're talking about this, I mean, we did mention that this is our favorite time of the year, and the reason why it's my favorite time is literally just because it feels like a whole new season after the trade deadline.
It does.
Like all these players in different uniforms, like it just feels like the off season happened and we're in the next year. So I'm excited for all that. I'm glad we recapped some and did some predictions for the trade deadline. And when we do recap next week, I'm kind of excited to see if any of our predictions were right.
Yeah, I hope at least a couple are, and
yeah,
we'll throw it up on Twitter and stuff, so you'll see our predictions if you missed it. And yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully we get at least a couple of these right, because we offered some pretty good trade offers.
Yeah,
I don't know why teams wouldn't do what we say.
Yeah, I think we should be GMs at this point. I think those are good predictions. So moving on, we again, we created a Twitter. I think I shouted this out last episode. I think I shouted out the Twitter last episode. Basically, we created a Twitter where we're just going to be sharing random content. I retweet random stuff. Chris makes some graphics about what happened in our show. We're just trying to gain a Twitter audience to hopefully drive them to this radio show and eventually our podcast after. So if you haven't checked out our Twitter, it's at the 3over2. We're going to head to a quick break right here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some all-star snubs and what we think of the all-star teams. Welcome back to the 3over2. I'm Joe Fortunato, and as always, I'm joined here with Chris Grieve. We just took our break. Prior to the break, we were discussing the trade deadline and possible trade destinations for some of the big names that have been mentioned in the trade deadline news. Now we're going to move on to all-stars and players we think that were snubbed. So every year there's some players that, you know, are arguably snubbed or should have the spot over other players. But at the end of the day, these guys that are on here are very deserving. I'm going to just go ahead and list off who made the all-star team before we get into our stubs. So in the East, they're led by Kevin Durant as their captain. The starters include KD, Giannis, DeMar, Joel, and Trae Young. And then off the bench, they have Jimmy Butler, Darius Garland, James Harden, Zach LaVine, Chris Middleton, Jason Tatum, and Fred VanVleet. In the West, we have LeBron James leading them as their captain. Their starting lineup is Steph Curry, LeBron, Nikola Jokic, John Morant, and Andrew Wiggins. And then off the bench, they have Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, and Karl Anthony Towns. So those are the guys who have the spots. But before we're going to get into the snubs, I do want to say that there are some players who won't be participating in the All-Star game, so that kind of gives a window for the snubs to get in. That includes, off the top of my head, Kevin Durant in the East and Draymond Green in the West.
Yeah, so some of the snubs that at least I saw, I'll start off in the East. I'm shocked LaMelo didn't make it. It seemed like he was a lock to make the All-Star game. He was definitely a snub. I think he's my first choice to replace Kevin Durant there too. Yeah,
and so if LaMelo does, I agree he's the first person that should get in the East. Jaylen Brown's a close second for me.
Okay,
but
yeah.
LaMelo Ball gets in for that Kevin Durant spot. Who starts?
Well, I'm trying to think. East. Positionally, it's hard. You already positionally. I guess he was at the small forward.
Yeah, so Jimmy Butler, James Harden, Zach LaVine.
I guess you could throw in Harden into the starting lineup, or, I mean, if I was just building it, like say I was playing 2K or something and trying to make the team that with size and all fits the best, I'd put Tatum in the lineup because he's a true small forward. But I think as far as the next best player up, it's probably Harden or Levine.
And I'm very shocked that Chris Middleton's on this list. He's averaging 20 points a game, 5.3 assists, 5.6 rebounds, which is great numbers, don't get me wrong. And I am a big Chris Middleton fan. I think he's such a great player on that Bucks team. But I don't think he's an all-star this year. This is the third year in a row that Chris Middleton's an all-star. I really don't think that he deserves it over guys like Jaylen Brown and LaMelo Ball. Who else in the East? So we just mentioned LaMelo and Jaylen Brown. They both make great cases to be an all-star. Who else in the East? Miles Bridges?
Yeah, Bridges, Jared Allen.
Oh, that's a big one.
And it's interesting. It's all guards in the East, which I like how they did that. I'm glad they didn't try and fill in positions. And
like Andrew Wiggins in the West.
Yeah. Oh, thank goodness they didn't try and just fill in positions. I'm very happy that they just picked the best players possible for the most part. LaMelo is one of the best players and should be in there, but I don't think they did a bad job. I'm glad Fred VanVleet's in there because I thought for sure VanVleet would get snubbed.
Yeah.
But Jared Allen, if you need another big, I think Jared Allen should be in there. I don't think he's snubbed, but I think he was so close. Like, he's the next guy up.
So my prediction actually is that Jared Allen's going to get in here over guys like LaMelo and Jaylen Brown because they don't have another big man.
That's a possibility.
I could just I just feel like that's something the NBA would do. They would just throw in another big.
Yeah.
Because I mean, again, like you mentioned, it's all guards and forwards off the bench. They don't have another big guy. Is there anyone else in the East that we're missing here as far as snubs go?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember if there's any others. No, it's mainly more in the West.
I'm happy Garland made it.
Oh, I thought of two more actually.
Okay. In the East?
In the East, yeah.
Right, shoot it.
Drew Holiday. You could argue he's better than Chris Middleton and more impactful for that team.
Okay.
I think they're at least neck and neck in terms of how impactful they are for the team because, if you look at the stats, Middleton looks better normally just because he's a better scorer, better offensive player, but Drew Holiday brings the defense. He's been hurt a little bit this year. It's like he'll play like 6 games and then miss 3. It's kind of been like that all year.
Yeah.
But Drew Holiday, when he's played, hasn't lost a beat since the finals, and he's had a really good year, so I think he's a bit of a snub. And also, I'll say Domantas Sabonis is a bit of a snub.
Okay.
Sabonis is doing Sabonis things that made him all-stars in years past. He's still an elite player at just getting rebounds and scoring points and getting blocked shots.
I will say the only thing I'll say bad about Sabonis is he did that when the team was winning games.
Yeah, the difference now is they aren't winning.
I mean, I'm happy Garland made it. That's like one of the guys I thought would get snubbed. All right, let's go out west. Nothing else for the East, right? I can't think of anyone else.
I thought of one more. Shoot it. I'll say it real quick, and people are gonna laugh at me, but Pascal Siakam, he's having a career year right now.
Is he?
Other than the year he actually was an all-star, I saw on Twitter the other day he has his most assists in his career, best shooting percentage.
Wow.
Some of the best advanced defensive metrics this year. He's having a really good year, and I mean, I don't think the team's good enough to put him in the all-star game, especially because they already gave one to Fred, but Pascal, not an awful pick, and I think he could be someone that's looked at as a possible reserve. Probably not, though. I'm just
a little bias going on.
Wanted to bring him in because he's my guy.
Nah, I like Spicy P. I mean, yeah, he's having a great year. He's definitely, if Chris Middleton made it, then he could be a candidate.
Yeah.
All right, so moving out west, it was confirmed that Monty Williams will be coaching the West pool. The East is not confirmed yet just because of how tight that race is right now. It's literally the Cleveland Cavaliers I believe they're in 5th place, are 1.5 games out of first.
That's crazy.
It's insane. The East is so much fun right now. I mean, looking at the West roster, it's so funny. It's so funny. Like, you look how East guys are averaging 25 points a game off the bench, 23 off the bench, 26 off the bench. And then in the East, you got Draymond Green averaging 8 points. Or in the West, you got Draymond averaging 8 points a game. You got Chris Paul averaging 14. And then you got Andrew Wiggins averaging 18. Obviously, their impact is far beyond the points per game, but it's just kind of funny looking at the side-by-side numbers. In the West, biggest snub for you?
DeJounte Murray, easily.
Easily for me, too. Who would you... So he would fill the Draymond Green role for you?
Yeah, I think so. And he's better than a couple of these people that are here. I definitely think he's having a better year than Wiggins. I think that's a no-doubter.
Yeah.
And a couple other people in the West. I mean, DeJounte Murray's having such a good year.
It kind of hurts to not see him on here.
He's averaging almost a triple-double. He's averaging 19.6 points a game, 8.5 rebounds, and 9 assists. He needs to be it. And he plays really good defense. He's a two-way
He's a great
guy.
on-ball defender.
Yeah, DeJounte should have made it.
Yeah, he should have made it. Regardless of the Spurs' success this year or lack of success, I think DeJounte should be on here. Another thing is I saw so many people advocating for Micall Bridges to be in the All-Star game.
I saw that too.
I mean, I'm a Nova fan. I love Micall Bridges. I don't think he's deserving of an All-Star this year, but we've seen in the past one seeds get 3 All-Stars. I mean, such as the Warriors. I mean, the Warriors aren't even the 1 seed. They have 3 All-Stars, and one of those guys probably shouldn't be in it.
Would you take Bridges over Wiggins?
Definitely not in the starter pool, but yeah. I think so, only because they're the 1 seed. Like we saw, what was it just last year? Mike Conley was an All-Star. Because the Jazz were number 1 in the West. So, yeah, I mean, you can make the case that Micall should be on here. I don't know who he would replace, though. I mean, DeJounte Murray definitely should take that Draymond Green spot.
Then it's if someone else gets hurt, probably.
Right. Yeah. I don't... What else in the West?
I mean, AD didn't make it.
Yeah, I don't think he should have.
He's been having really good stretch the last few weeks.
No, he has been balling. And another person who's had some good stretch, Luka Doncic, since not being named an All-Star starter, is averaging 35 points and 11 assists.
Wow.
And 8 rebounds.
You love to see that when players take it personally and then start to go off.
So, anyone else in the West you can think of that's...
Not really. I think that's pretty much all out West. You could maybe say I saw some people advocating for Jaren Jackson and Shea.
Okay. Yeah, maybe Shea more so than Jaren, but I mean, I don't think either of them. I saw a lot of people honestly hating on Draymond Green being an All-Star, and I have no clue why.
I disagree with that.
Yeah. Who cares? Dude, his stat line's so cool. 7.9 points, 7.4 assists, 7.6 rebounds.
That is.
Like, he's a 7.77 guy, but his impact is far beyond that. We just brought it up last podcast. The Warriors on offense without Draymond Green are like 28th in the league. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's a guy that can bring the ball up for the team. The offense revolves around Draymond Green. It seems like whenever Curry gets a 3, Draymond touches it at one point, at least in the play. It's such a good offense where Draymond's always touching the ball and always finding people, and he'll stand up there at the top of the key and just find people, and people don't realize how good of an offensive player he is, or they think he's a terrible offensive player. He's only defense because he averages 7 points a game. That's not true.
Yeah. It's not true at all. And I kind of just want to highlight this real quick, be a little LeBron fanboy. 29 points a game, 7.7 rebounds, 6.3 assists, and this is his 18th All-Star appearance. That's crazy. Like, to play 18 years in the league alone is something not many people have accomplished at all. And the fact that you're 18-time All-Star, averaging 29 points a game, like, it's just unheard of.
Yeah, and I hope he's one of those players I kind of hope when he does retire, he retires on top, like how Tom Brady did in the NFL.
Yeah.
Have an MVP candidate season and then just retire, so then nobody even knows what you're like when you're bad. Like, you never even get to that point.
Yeah, like we saw Michael Jordan, not bad. He was still averaging 20 points a game, but
he kind of got bad. He wasn't Jordan anymore.
No, not by any means. And then, you relate it to the NFL. We saw guys like Brett Favre overplay their career and then some bad years, and Ben Roethlisberger have some bad years. So, I want to see LeBron go out on top. I think another guy that's on this All-Star team I kind of want to talk about, that I'm just happy he's an all-star is Chris Paul. He was sent to OKC for his career to die out. I mean, that was just the brutal aspect of it. People sent the Rockets sent him there because they believed in Russ more than CB3, which was proven to not work.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, they sent Chris Paul for his career to die out, and he turned that OKC team into a decent team somehow. And then he leaves to go to Phoenix. Everyone's like, "Oh, what's that move about?" And he takes him to the finals. Chris Paul's impact is crazy, and I'm just happy to see him be an all-star again.
And I don't think this is the last year of Chris Paul being an all-star.
It's not. He's
still got a few more.
I just saw something on the JJ Redick podcast about Chris Paul literally couldn't shoot in the playoffs. Like
I watched that too.
Yeah, his shoulder was messed up, and I mean the dude's resilient. The dude can figure out how to pick apart any defense.
Smartest player in the league, you could say.
I would arguably say he's top 3 smartest player to ever play. I think LeBron, Chris Paul, and like I can't think of a third in history, but I think those two are 2 of the top 3 smartest guys.
He knows every rule too. Like, you could just look up on YouTube videos like situations of Chris Paul knowing the rules, and he'll know rules that nobody else on the court knows, and he'll be able to just take advantage of different things. Or he'll in between timeouts be talking to the refs the whole time. He just manipulates refs in order to get things in his favor, and it's so smart because why not try that? Like, why not try and take any advantage you can?
It's part of the game.
It's part of the game. He doesn't have all the physical tools that every other player has, so he takes advantage of things that he can control. And he realized, like, if I talk to the ref and I start telling him that this has been happening the whole game, then eventually he might give me the call late in the game. That could be a difference in a 1-point game. And Chris Paul's a winning player and just knows basketball. He knows basketball and knows ways to win.
Yeah, and another exciting part about this All-Star game is there's a good amount of first-time All-Stars, which we don't see too often. We have Fred VanVleet, first-time All-Star, Darius Garland, first-time All-Star, John Morant and Andrew Wiggins, first-time All-Star. I think that's pretty cool. This is DeMar DeRozan's first All-Star game in many years. It's going to be weird not seeing guys like Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving in the All-Star game. Even Ben Simmons the past couple of years have been in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting. We listed our snubs. I think we gave some good reasons for those snubs. I'm really excited for the next episode. Definitely know the topic of that one's going to be the trade deadline. And just recap what happened. We're going to kind of flash back to our predictions that we said earlier in this hour and see if any of them landed. So that's exciting. You have anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, that's pretty much all. As we said earlier in the show, if you haven't followed us on Twitter yet, I'd check that out at the 3/2. We're just going to be posting pretty much what we talk about here. We'll post, if we talk about a list, we'll post it there also, and some more NBA content. This is our time now, every Friday at 3 for the rest of the semester, so that goes until about
late April.
Yeah, late April. So you'll be hearing from us at 3 every day, and that's all for this show. Thank you for listening to the 3/2.